Hey, what's up? It's Bobby Sapphire, KTOD. Doing an interview with Astrotech, the winner of TTS League Number Zero Top Cut. We actually tried to stream his first round game, but the opponent didn't show up, so we interviewed him about his deck list. It was a Command Boba deck. He ended up going on to win, so I hit him up tonight to ask if I could talk to him for about 10 more minutes. So we have roughly a 17-ish minute interview talking about his deck choices, his matches in the top cut, and how he won the first ever league. So check it out.
Whoa, we're gonna have company!
Yo,
Hello.
we're still streaming, so we figured we'd talk to you about your deck for a couple minutes because
So Astrotech, you want to talk to us on
I wasn't gonna
stream?
ask him. I already told him he had to. We're already streaming.
Oh,
We're
okay.
already talking, so it's happening. All right,
Yeah, I said that I'd chat about it in TTS, so
Oh, okay,
no worries.
cool. All right, well, your deck's on the screen.
Okay.
What do you?
So
we
here's a
talked
quick
about it in
question.
general, but yeah, go ahead, Matt. Lead it off.
All right, Astrotech.
Yeah.
Listen, let's talk here. You had a grueling first match. You're tired. The sweat dripping after a big battle. How you feeling? How you feeling after that 15-minute wait period?
Yeah, it was a challenge, but that's part of the grind, right? Sometimes you just gotta get through it, shake it off, go into the next round. But yeah, no, I'm mixed feelings that Drosin didn't show up. I thought the matchup was going to be likely the most challenging one in the bracket for me. My list is not slanted towards playing a super late game. It's more slanted towards trying to get advantage in the Boba. And so I was expecting more Boba in the event, and there ended up only being 4. So doing I'll see how my list works out for me. But
so I'm sure Mike has a lot of questions about your list, and I'll kick it off to him in a second. But you said you wanted to slant this towards the Boba. What are some of those cards that you can key in on that are going to help you out there?
Yeah, so the main thing for me is having a full 6 copies of turn 2 ramp in the list. Getting your Boba out on what would normally be the 4 resource turn is a pretty good way of getting an advantage in the mirror. Just stat wise, Boba is very strong, so getting him out of turn early is always beneficial. Then the next piece is this steadfast battalion. So this is a bit of mirror breaker tech that I came up with in my testing. And the plan
this
here
is an interesting card. I'm loving it. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah. And so the plan here is, you're hoping to ramp on your 3 resource turn, get Boba out the following turn, and use your resources on that turn to use Energy Conversion Lab with the Steadfast Battalion to one-shot their Boba Fett before they can attack with it. Because it'll come down, attack with ambush, and its on attack will trigger, and it can target itself, giving it +2/+2. So it will attack in as a 7/7 into anything that you're ambushing. So it's a great way to ensure that you maintain your Boba advantage. Or, if they miss their ramp turn, it's a good way to press your ramp advantage by being able to swing over, one of their early plays and do a little bit of chip damage to the base.
What do you think about that, Mikey? You've played a lot of
I
Boba.
love it. And honestly, I was playing Callus for a while and really hating it, and then I switched to the Steadfast. No, not the Lackey, the Syndicate Lackey for the 5 attack, and was really liking it. And then I switched to Rook recently, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I just thought that this guy only buffed his only buffed another unit. So that's why I kind of ignored it, and it's just read the card stupid kind of moment for me. But I love it. I think it's such a great call, and I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll note is, and this is, I think, the read from a lot of the community is, if you're not Energy Conversion Labbing the Steadfast Battalion in, then it can be a little mopey. I mean, it's essentially just a 5/5 for 5. So I'm really just looking to set up that play pattern, and if it looks like I need to use Energy Conversion Lab earlier, then I'm more looking to potentially resource the battalion, depending on the matchup.
Do you think
So
that might warrant it being like a 2 of instead of a 3 of?
I think it should have been a 2 of going into what the metagame is, but I was expecting there to be probably 10 Boba Fett decks, and so that's why I slanted towards playing all 3.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, that's how you should approach a tournament. So have you played a lot of card games before? What have you played? Where are you from? Hit us.
Yeah, so I'm based in Minnesota, so
Ooh.
right by Fantasy Flight. So yeah, I played quite a bit of previous Fantasy Flight games. Played Game of Thrones, Star Wars Destiny. Played a little bit of the Call of Cthulhu game. Before that, I mean, my roots are in Magic the Gathering. I started playing that, I guess, like 26 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of experience there, a lot of time in a competitive environment.
All right, we're back with Astrotech. We tried to stream his first round game. You already listened to him talk about his deck, but I forgot to ask you about Bounty Hunter Crew in the sideboard. So, like, did you get that in today? What's that doing there?
Yeah, so I got a lot of questions about this one. I think this is another card that I have in as a sideboard option for the mirror match. As a way to put a little more top end into Boba Yellow, Boba Green matches. Mostly the 3 of is for the Boba Green match, just as a way to be able to have the overwhelming barrage advantage going into the late game. It's a nice way of being able to just, pick up extras there, pick up no good to me deads or waylays, whatever kind of the situation calls for. And a lot of times the stats on it are enough to finish off a Vader from their end that is ambushed in and killed something. So you can trade off with their Vader and still stay card neutral on that exchange. And so that's kind of the thought process there. I only played one Boba match in the event, and that was against a yellow Boba. So I brought 1 or 2 in because you tend to be able to beat them before you get to the late game, and their late game isn't quite as good as yours since you've got Vader as a way to build board state. And so you tend not to need it as much, and I ended up not drawing it in the match as Fire Spray did the trick. So,
as it usually does.
Yeah.
All right. So when we last spoke, you had just not had your opponent show up, and then you faced Luke Green, Yellow Boba, and then Green Krennic in the finals. So, talk us through your afternoon.
Yeah, so going into the Luke match, playing against Rebel Traitor, his list had some interesting tech in it. He had a Force Throw and 2 copies of Overwhelming Barrage. So, those were things that I had to think about playing in the match a little more than just kind of your standard. In both the games we played, he had the 1-drop start where he can reduce the cost of the next unit he plays.
Yeah, Alliance Dispatcher. He won on the back of that in the first round too.
Yeah, and that's a really strong play pattern. And so the first game, he was on the play, able to get a shield down before I could really interact with that. And so I went space kind of early, did a lot of chip damage, and eventually took it from there. And then in the next game, my hand, I had to mulligan, and my hand didn't have ramp in it. And so when he led on the dispatcher, I thought for a moment and decided to use Energy Conversion Lab with my Viper Probe Droid to kill the dispatcher. And that ended up rewarding me because my opponent's hand didn't have any 3-drops in it. And so they ended up having to just claim next turn. I was able to get a big board advantage and then leverage 2 waylays on his turns 5 and 6 plays to close the game out.
You're only 2 waylays, right? You're on 2 waylay.
In game 2, I boarded a 3rd in. I think it's pretty good in the Luke match because they can, they have upgrades and a lot of big costed sentinel things that are very efficient to bounce. And
Yeah,
so,
they're tapping out every turn. It's really easy to bounce them and set them way back.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then in the next round, playing against
Poison Ivy's Mono Boba.
yeah, the Mono Boba. That matchup I think is favored for green because if you get ramp draws, your Boba comes out a turn earlier, and you're able to just kind of leverage that resource advantage to take tempo of the game, and that's pretty much what we saw play out. I had some good fortune in being able to double surprise strike in one of the games to close the game out from them being, at like 13 health to close that. And in the first one, I was able to play through a really interesting situation where I was ahead on board, but they matched my Fet's Fire Spray and put me in a position where their swing with Fet's Fire Spray put me at 19 of 25 health on base, and I could have pressured 7 more damage on base and put them to 24 of 25 and given them initiative, or claimed. And I decided to claim because I felt like I could afford to play around shoot first, which is the only way I was going to lose that game. And I had a lot of answers to that, between a surprise strike, which would have been lethal, my own shoot first to clear the fire spray, overwhelming barrage, no good to me dead, just a lot of ways that I could stop that lethal. So I felt like I would take the chance and claim there, hoping to draw something. And fortunately, my opponent drew dead there, and I was able to finish the game with my 2 action attacks.
Yeah, huge. All the tricks out of Boba, especially the command Boba, like the ones you just outlined, often lead me to just make sure I have that initiative for the next turn and can figure it out. And one of the hardest things about this game I've found is like taking the initiative even though you haven't maximized your turn, which is something that's like hard to do. No.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, for me, it comes down to understanding what your opponent's game plan is, and what they're likely to do, and then you can kind of leverage the value of how good that is versus the damage, and that's kind of like the quick heuristic that I use. Like, what are you worried about? How bad is it if they have the initiative and play it for you versus getting that extra chip damage in?
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the finals. Hypo's Krennic.
Yeah, so Krennic was the matchup I was the most concerned with going into the event because the removal in blue is very strong, and they have a similar late game as you with overwhelming barrage, Darth Vader, but then they have the big ships on top of that.
Yeah.
And so my plan for that matchup was to take advantage of the lack of space that Krennic represents. They have Inferno 4 and Consortium essentially as their only ships, and his list specifically relied pretty heavily on super laser tech for ramping, with 3 super laser tech and 2 resupply. And so the plan of going space helps ensure that his ramp is less reliable, and also it will take time for him to find the cards to help stabilize space, and theoretically that will allow me to either leverage Fet's Fire Spray or make a quick shift to ground using the combination of Boba Fett and Steadfast Battalion, which I featured in my list, and I believe we talked about earlier.
Yeah, for sure. And is that how the game's played out? You went to space and then hit him for 7 on the ground with the Steadfast Battalion when it seemed right?
Yeah, so I got to use Steadfast Battalion to good effect in the games, but I think the MVP of the matchup was certainly Fet's Fire Spray. In both of the games we played, he was unable to find an answer for it, and so it kind of just did the work and got me across the finish line.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, Season 0 champion, Astrotech.
Feels good.
Feels good. Cool. So what's next for you? Are you doing the next season's league, or what's you getting geared up just for the cards to come out in 6 weeks? What's the deal?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the set releasing. I'm playing in the next season's league. I've already finished my matches. I think I'm fifth seed currently in that. Um, and so yeah, who knows if I'll play Boba again in the playoffs, or if I'll try and branch out and find a way to beat the Menace.
Hmm.
But certainly having a title under my belt, lets me go either way. Either I can try and defend the title, or I can just kind of try and have fun this time and mess around with some of the ideas I've had for the format.
Yeah, you're free. You're totally free. That's awesome. Uh, Great. Well, I guess we'll look for you in the Top Cut. I hope to stream one of your games next month. Is there anything you want to drop to whoever's watching before we call it a night?
Yeah, well, if anyone's listening that's not already, subscribed to your channel, that they should certainly do
Uh,
that, and they should join in the league and get into this game. It's really got some strong, compelling gameplay, and who doesn't love Star Wars? So
yeah, couldn't have said it better. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
yeah,
All right.
thanks for having me.
Congrats again. Have a good night.
Thanks.